I saw a UFO this weekend. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Orphic Podcast, special short form edition. My name is Alyssa Sokol. I'm an astrophysicist. I have my PhD, and I do research on the intersection of science and spirituality, trying to understand how the universe works from a conscious, energetic perspective. Also very focused lately on time and understanding the nature of time and whether or not there's a coordinate system of time that does not yet exist. So we have been on a little hiatus with the podcast due to busy schedules. I recently started a new job as a professor. I am teaching astronomy this semester, 2 astronomy classes, teaching physics next semester. So it has been quite a trip, but also very rewarding. But we will be coming back soon. But in the meantime, I thought that we could kind of do spontaneous transmission episodes whenever the inspiration hits. And boy, did it hit this weekend, because I saw a UFO this weekend. And I just want to talk about it because it felt like a very profound experience for me. And yeah, I want to talk about it. I want to talk about what led up to it, and also kind of just share some thoughts about how it kind of relates to the way that quantum physics dictates the way that we experience our reality, and the way that we choose that, and the way that our subconscious, or I'll get into like a higher level, of course, dictates what we experience. And then, yeah, I want to read another thing. I did start writing my book recently, and there is a little bit of an excerpt that I want to read, a bit of a download in there about that has to do with experiencing reality and how, and the nature in which our different higher aspects also are intending our reality that might not entirely be conscious to us. So, all right, the UFO of it all. Okay, I am currently residing in the Hudson Valley area of New York, so a bit like an hour or two north of New York City. And first off, I have never had a UFO experience. I've also never had like a ghost experience. So up until now, and there's a lot of different ways I could interpret this, but my physical eyes have never seen anything that one would automatically categorize as maybe not normally residing in this dimension. I had my spiritual awakening in 2020, and in about right around the pandemic was my biggest spiritual awakening, where I was really catapulted. I learned about the existence of extraterrestrials or interdimensional species around summer 2020 is when I kind of became comfortable with the concept, and I started taking in some content about it. And what it really was more of a remembrance. Me and Michaela do have an episode that is titled A Remembrance of Our Connection to Extraterrestrial Beings, because I do believe it's not necessarily that they are so external from us. I believe that there is more of a connection. And, I think anytime that you hear information, if it feels really out of pocket and if it really makes you highly uncomfortable, it might not be for you. But if you hear information and you resonate with it and you're like, oh, I knew that at some level, then it probably is for you. And that's when I started learning that there are extraterrestrials around us. They're connected to us, and we can communicate with them telepathically. And I would say I got really into the alien stuff maybe in like end of 2020, 2021 or so. And I also got into this idea of quantum physics and how and how sometimes when you experience something, or as soon as you're aware that something is possible, you become more likely to invite that experience into your reality because your subconscious is able to seek it out more. This happened with me with glitches in the matrix in probably 2 days into the pandemic. I learned about glitches in the matrix. A glitch in the matrix is when you hop timelines between two parallel realities, and it appears as an inconsistency in your personal reality, and maybe multiple people experiencing different things, when it seemed like you should have had a shared experience, something like that, or an inconsistency in your personal reality. I learned about glitches in the matrix, I read up on them, and 2 days later I experienced one. And it feels like this UFO thing might be a little bit similar. But so basically, I mentioned the alien stuff because all to say that I've been asking to see a UFO since like 2021-ish, when I knew that, it was possible to see them, that they're around, they're connected with us, but it's just that, I really believe that they're all over, but they are able to cloak themselves, or they might not entirely vibrate in this third dimensional plane. So you might have to raise your vibration a bit to be able to match up to see it. They choose to reveal themselves when it's destined. And so I've been asking to see one. I've been like, come on, universe. Aliens, spirit guides, show me, reveal yourselves. I've been trying to see something. And, there's times where I've gone back and forth into it, and I've been like, I want to see something. I'm like looking at the sky, I'm like squinting my eyes, but we all know how that works, right? The harder you try, the more you push it away. So that was futile. But okay, so fast forward to this week. I preface this by saying I really interpret this UFO sighting and encounter as a really logical byproduct of quantum physics because in the week leading up to this, so this encounter happened on Saturday, November 23rd, which is 11/23/24, 11/23/24. Interesting numerology there, eh? And this whole week leading up to it, there's also been some stuff in the news, whatever, aliens. I guess in my Instagram algorithm, there's been some more postings about UFOs and UFO sightings or videos. And I guess I kind of just started getting a little more into it. I ebb and flow with these things. The spiritual journey is so much. And sometimes I'm like in the throes of addictions, and other times I'm like, whoa, cool, aliens. So, it oscillates, and I happened to it caught me at a time where I was like, oh, cool, UFOs, and I started following a lot more accounts that all were showing like videos, a combination of daytime UFO sightings and like just interesting lights in the night sky that are like, oh, what's that? Who knows? And so that's the preface of this, which makes sense to me then why I experienced that, because it was in my reality already, very much in my field, in my aura. And so it's not as surprising that I would then attract it, or it would then become my reality loosens up a bit to allow my filter of my eyes to see it. And so, okay, what I think is the crazy thing about this story is that there was a whole series of all these little divine redirections, divine slowdowns that all led me to be at the right place at the right time to see this mysterious thing. So I found a new walking spot 5 minutes from my apartment recently, and I've been going there when I can in the mornings before work, whatever. And so I'm going there on Saturday. I'm working I'm doing some work, but of course, I kept procrastinating my whole morning. I was like, oh, I'll do my walk this time, kept pushing it back. So it ends up being a little bit later than I planned. I stopped at the store on the way. At the store on the way, I had this whole very like frustrating encounter, when you like choose the wrong checkout line or just something. It was really silly, but it was just like, oh, I don't know. It was just this thing where I was like, I was waiting on 2 lines and then these other people sort of went ahead of me and cut me. And I was like, okay, I guess it's fine. Like, I guess I'll just go on this other one. And then, of course, like my rage starts building up because the lady in front of me was getting literally 50 Tupperwares, and the people and the other checkout line that I should have chosen, or that I should have just been like, wait, I was waiting for whoever went first. I should have, like, they had like 3 sets of people go already, and I was still waiting behind this lady, and I was like, I was getting so mad. And I was like, I could have been out of here, just that anger if you're like, oh, this could have been more efficient. But I do trust the universe, and anytime something like this happens, little redirection, little slowdown, I do always say, I tend to say this to myself, but this day I definitely said to myself while I was at the store, you have to trust this. You have to trust this. You don't know why. You should not have left the store 3 minutes ago. You should have left the store at this time. I had to just trust the timing of this, what seemed like a slowdown at the supermarket. So I was like, oh, okay, whatever, fine. I trust. This lady gets her 50 Tupperwares and we're good to go. So then I go to my walking spot. It's really close. It's like a few minute drive away. And there's this one little naturey path, and then there's like a paved path, and it goes around and it loops around a playground. So the naturey path is a little bit more closed in on the trees. The path that goes around this playground that's paved is a bit more open air, open sky. I veer right to go towards my naturey path, but it had just rained and snowed in the last few days, so I saw from the distance that there were a lot of puddles there that it looked like I could not really traverse on the side. So I said, oh, okay. I said, okay, I guess I got to go the other way today. So I veered left, and as I veered left, I started walking, and I was leaving my friend Phoenix a voice memo on Instagram. And I said, hey girl. And I said, hey girl, I'm on my hot girl walk. And then I had silence because I saw something strange in the sky. It was very low to the ground. It was, okay, so it wasn't like a tiny dot in the sky. It was kind of low, and it was going over the power lines. My first thought was, is that a drone? But it did look big. And when you're seeing something like, even it wasn't right in front of my face, but it was in the distance and it was up, but it wasn't crazy high up in the sky, but it was still up in the sky. But I looked at it, and my first thought was, is that a drone? Because even though I'm into all this shit, at the same time, I don't assume everything's a UFO, because I've been so let down before. I've wanted to see one, but I don't assume everything's a UFO. I was like, oh, that must be a drone. And then I look at it super closely, and I was like, that does not look like a drone. I've never seen anything like that. It looked like a flying saucer shaped. It was a bit more spherical. So it was kind of like, it was like on the spherical side of like a flying saucer, but maybe like a little smushed. And it was rotating, and there was a band of white lights that was rotating on it that I saw. And it was like moving, and this was the middle of the day, by the way. This was noon. And I went back and looked at my voice memo, because I caught the audio of when I first saw it, and it was like a 15-second voice memo that I sent my friend, and it was actually at 12 o'clock noon on the dot is when I saw this UFO. And so it kind of just like goes by, and it keeps on whizzing past, and so it disappeared from view. It just disappeared from my view. It didn't like disappear or anything, because it wasn't like a nighttime situation with lights. I know a lot of people sometimes see like lights and then the lights just disappear. This is broad daylight. Nobody else happened to be around. By the way, I went back to the park today around maybe an hour later, and there was a lot more cars and a lot more people. I was the only one there at this time. So I really saw what appeared to be like a mysterious metal object that looked pretty big. It was literally shaped like a flying saucer. It was rotating and it had a band of lights. The lights didn't go all the way around, but it was kind of like a short rectangle of lights, of white lights, and it was rotating, going all around. And I saw it whiz off, and it was going like, and I remember it was going right over the power lines, and it was like a random area, not a lot of houses around. Like, it was kind of giving like little Stranger Things vibes. It looked like there would be a UFO there. It was like an empty field, like in the distance, because I usually walk past where it was flying directly over. So I know where it was flying directly over is basically a empty field with power lines. And that's where it was flying. And I was just in shock. But the first thing I did was I Googled all types of drones. I Googled like spherical drones to see if there was any drone out there that could possibly look like this that I just didn't know about. I didn't find anything. Any type of drone, like all have the little flyy wings, would help it like fly up. And there was none of that on this. It was a giant metal saucer-like sphere that was rotating. And all of those other moments leading up to it put me in that exact right place at the right time to see it. There are so many other little things could have happened for me to not be there at that exact time to see it. And also the fact that nobody else was around is a little weird. And yeah, so I was just like, texting my family about it, telling my friend like, oh, I think I just saw a UFO. I really don't think it was a drone. So do I think that there were literally aliens in there? I don't know. I think maybe. I also think it's possible that there's these like government things, and I don't know. I can't say with 100% certainty that the Greys were in there, but they could have been. So I don't know. But it, regardless, let's just say that I don't think we're usually seeing rotating saucery discs flying over the power lines like that. Am I right? Can you tell me if you're seeing them really often? I know a lot of people have had UFO encounters, but it was a UFO, and for all I know, it could have been aliens, but I do believe that I was meant to see it, and I do believe that I was guided there at that time, and it kind of feels like a new level for me. The other thing that's crazy is that it happened to happen at the same day that I became debt-free with debt that was related to my previous addictions, my pharmaceutical addiction at the end of grad school that I talk about extensively on this podcast. There's episodes about it. And so there's a lot of like, it was a timeline jump, like timeline shift, like that whole morning I was extremely emotional, like extremely grateful and happy that I had just like paid back this final piece of debt. And I'm really learning a lot of financial lessons right now in a positive ways. And I'm implementing new financial lessons. So it was a huge deal for me that day that I was able to rid myself of this of this debt that was specifically, all this debt was related to money that I had spent in this addiction phase of my life a few years ago. And so the fact that it happened that day, the fact that this was my first time ever seeing something like that, I think is pretty significant. And again, like I don't 100% know. I never claim to know anything with 100% certainty, but I've never seen anything like that. Sure looked like a flying saucer to me. Sure looked like an air craft to me. So I don't know, man. But overall, it just kind of makes me think of, I invited this into my reality. I also reached a new level, maybe reached a new timeline. Maybe I reached a new frequency such that now I've allowed this to enter my experience. And, I don't want this little transmission to be too long. So I'm going to wrap by just kind of reading this excerpt from my book that I started writing recently. That is a bit of a compilation of my downloads. And okay, so it's about experiencing reality. And the way that I wrote this was pretty much like channeled writing. So I'm just going to read it in the way that it was intended to come out. We allow more experiences and senses into our reality once we are aware they are possible. Because if we have something in mind, then we know what to seek. Before it exists in the physical, the mind projects it out. Not always consciously, but there is some extension element that the rest coagulates around. Nothing is ever fully unknown because it is one of your existence planes projecting outward to be able to receive the rest of the experience. There is always an aspect of you in one direction, forward or backward, that desired the experience. And I think kind of just what I'm referring to there is if our existence is split across multiple planes, we have one of our existences here in this dimension, in this physical body, in this incarnation. There is another plane of our existence that is usually sending out the signal for an experience to be created around. And with that, that is my UFO story. I hope that the fact that I was able to experience this ignites an opening in someone else's quantum field, loosens up their quantum field and their waveforms around them to invite in a life-changing, very interesting experience. I'm still processing it. I just keep pulling my mind back to like watching that thing that I've never seen anything like that before rotating with lights. And it was really crazy. So I hope that you enjoyed this little transmission about my UFO sighting experience. And yeah, we'll be back soon with some more transmissions, some more episodes with Michaela. And thank you for being here. Bye.